I have this funky hair going. I just noticed it. Hey friends, welcome to today's little meal prep. I'm trying to give you a glimpse of what goes on in my own life for living a healthy lifestyle. And the reason I call it Lifetime Warrior is because it actually takes a lot of courage to become the warrior for your health and your life and to do things differently. Because that's what's required. I mean, let's just talk about real quick. Most people in the US, and really if you go into any other Western culture or Western-based country, most of us are sick with some kind of disease, whether that's diabetes, heart disease, or heading toward that road, obesity, autoimmunes. What am I missing? The big four. I'm missing one. Regardless, my theory and philosophy is much of that is lifestyle based. And yes, I do live with Crohn's disease, and that is really the catalyst for my message. It's that you don't have to be a slave to your disease. You can live vibrantly. So one of the things that I do is I meal plan and do some prep to make my world easier as the week goes, because we all get busy, right? And if we haven't planned for success, and this goes with health too, then we get to the end of the workday and we're tired and we're like, oh, what can I make real quick? I'm starving. And we go for what's in the cupboard. We go for the easy stuff, the convenient stuff, which isn't always the best for us. And let me give you a little secret. It doesn't take you any longer to make a salad or something healthy than it does to make crap food. So in 30 minutes or less, you can have a really healthy meal. So what I'm going to do today is I found a recipe for cauliflower pizza. So this is the crust, and this is my plan. I'm going to make it and get it all baked and everything, but rather than making it a full pizza today, I'm just going to freeze the crust so I can use it whatever day that I want to. And I'm going to say I've never done this before. So I may be setting myself up for a little failure today, but we'll find out. So we'll all learn, right? We'll all learn in the process. So what you're going to need is a head of cauliflower. I've already prepped it. I've already washed it. I've got it, into the cubes or the little pieces of cauliflower. I've taken the stem off. I've got my food processor ready to go. I've washed my hands. So all I have to do is mix everything together and show you the process, and we'll go from there. And then I'll tell you the baking part. I'm not going to make you stick around for 15 minutes of kind of like watching water boil type of thing. Unless I can entertain you for 15 minutes. That's possible too. So here we go. Putting the cauliflower in the processor. Now if you want to shortcut this process, you can buy the riced cauliflower in the frozen section of your supermarket. It just depends on if you want to spend the money or the time. So a head of cauliflower is a little cheaper than the $6 or $7 that those pizza crusts cost, because you can get those already done. And it looks like I'm going to have to do this in 2 rounds, so 2 pulses. So I'm going to go ahead and stick the lid on the food processor. And all I'm doing is I'm just going to hit pulse. That's it. So I've got to turn it on. Just a little bit more. So all I want, I don't want to overdo it. All I want is kind of a grain-like consistency. So I think that probably looks about right. Let me show you. So if you can see that, it really does look kind of like rice. So I'm going to pour that into a pan because we're going to, actually a pot. Let me be technical. My home ec teacher wouldn't be happy with me out on that one. Yes, I did get to take home ec when I was in school. So we don't want it to get real fine because you don't want mush. You don't want, you want some consistency with it or it's not going to work. So I'm putting this into a pot because we're going to cook it in a little bit. And I put just a little trace of water in it. We'll see if I need to add more because I don't know. Hi, Jordan. Actually, yes, I do meditation. So it's one of the things in my own lifestyle, and I have recorded 10 meditations. So I have a package of 10 meditations ready to go for people that want that. And that's actually one of my one-on-one clients right now. We're working on stress relief and relaxation. So we're doing some teaching her how to do meditation on her own. Thanks for asking. All right, so we're going to go with round 2 on this cauliflower because I'm going to use the whole head. I don't want to waste any, right? That's why we plan, because we really want to save time and money in the long run. That's the whole reason. And here's my philosophy. It's not even a philosophy, it's a truth. In terms of our health, everything weaves together, whether that is how we eat, how we move, how we think, how we deal with our emotions or not. I forgot the blade. No, the blade's in there. All those things go together. They go hand in hand. And what we put in our bodies in terms of nutrition and nutrients does impact our brain, how we think, our mood, how we feel, because our gut is the basis of the dopamine and all these chemicals that make us serotonin, those chemicals that make us feel good and balanced. They're in our gut, not just in our brain. There's a direct correlation between the two. So here we go. We're going to pulse a little bit more. Oh, I didn't want that on. I've got one that's kind of stuck. So let me get this one to go down a little more. Hi, whoever else is on. I've got Jordan and I've got someone else. So, yes, Jordan, I do know that this mudra, I've studied this mindfulness and yoga and all those things really thoroughly for several years. So I do understand that that is really relaxing. Thanks for that tip. I've got one little piece that's being kind of stubborn. There we go. I think I got it. All right. So again, this is about the consistency. So I'm going to dump this in a pot. I feel like I have my own cooking show. I feel a little bit like Rachel Ray or someone like that right now. Hi, Jana. Thanks for joining. So I've just pulsed a head of cauliflower, and I'm now putting it in a pot so I can cook it a little bit just to make things stick as I put it together. Now, the original recipe says, I found this on Pinterest, and I'm adapting it a little bit because that's what I do with recipes, just little heads up. So it's a head of cauliflower. It's about 2 cups processed. I know I have more than that. I have about 4 cups. So I had a really big head of cauliflower. And I've put it now in a pot. So let me turn this so you can see. I don't know what your view is. I'm sorry about that. But you can maybe see it in the pot. Maybe? You can see the stove, can't you? There you go. All right. And there's a little bit of water in there. I think I might add just a little bit more. I'm going to cook it this way. The recipe says to cook it in the microwave. I am not a fan of microwave cooking and haven't been for years. So being a person who deals with gut issues, something you might want to know about microwaves is that they kill the enzymes that your body needs in order to process and absorb the nutrition. So you're not going to be able to get the nutrition that you think or want. And we're in an age now where I think people are a little more aware of how some of that radiation is impacting our bodies in not such a great way. So I avoid the microwave as much as possible. It's not always doable, but as much as I can. So let me get just a little more water to put in this, and then I'm going to turn it on. And while it's cooking, I'm going to go into the next step, and we'll just watch it. Or I will watch it as it's cooking. So let me set this back down. All right, so a food processor can go out of the way. Knife out of the way. Let me grab a bowl, a mixing bowl. You know what? I'm just going to use this one. Just fine. So I've got this. All right, so what is going in this is, let me get the right size measuring cup. I need 1/3 of a cup. So I've got 1/3 of a cup. I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. It's already grated. So if you buy organic, awesome. If you have fresh farms, awesome. That do that. Those would be my preferences. That's not available where I live, so I'm just using good old Kraft at the moment. No judgment. So there's 1/3 of Parmesan. I'm still a fan of fresh food, regardless of whether you get organic or not. Fresh food over processed as much as possible. So as much as you can do that. Cheese is one of those things that, like, I'm not really adding much to it other than salt and some things to keep its shelf life going. So now I'm adding 1/3 of a cup of mozzarella. Like I said, I haven't made this recipe before, so it's going to be interesting for all of us. I'm going to go ahead and stir this cauliflower a little bit. There's plenty of time, right? I'm going to add a little more water yet. It's still a little, I don't think it's going to cook. So if you can see that, I don't know if you can or not. So I'm going to add a little more water to that yet. So it'll cook, because we're going to drain it. But we do want it to have that consistency that we can mix all of these things together easily. And I don't think it's going to take that long on the stove once it gets going. Okay. So I've added to my bowl, I've added 1/3 of a cup of mozzarella and 1/3 of a cup of fresh Parmesan, not the powdered. Really important. All right, so from there, this is going to make 1 pizza crust. So I'm going to have to do this process again because I guarantee I have enough cauliflower to make 2. So I'm going to add, you know what? Why don't I just make 2 now? Let's make life easier. Oh, awesome, Nicole. Thanks for hopping on. Hey, tell me what your recipe is. I'm curious. So Nicole says they make cauliflower pizza crust quite a bit. My goal is to make this and freeze it to use later. So it was the plan to make it yesterday, and that didn't get to happen. So I'm going to go ahead and make it so it doesn't go to waste, and then we'll just eat it next weekend. I just don't like fresh veggies going to waste. So as much as I can go ahead and make it ahead of time, that's awesome. Yeah. So we want an egg. So since I'm making 2 crusts, it's going to be 2 eggs. And then I'm going to add a little spice just for some flavor. So, and I like that this recipe has it, but this is where I'm adapting a little bit. So it calls for basil and oregano. I'm going to use Italian seasoning in general. So I'm going to use a little bit more than 1/2 teaspoon, but not quite a full teaspoon. Just depends on how strong you like your flavors. So my family does not care for oregano. No, I don't have kids, but I've got other people in my family and they don't care for oregano. Then we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. And this is why I was like, yes, I want to try that recipe because I like the flavor of those things. I like to use herbs and spices, whether they're fresh or the packaged, dried, because I think that's a really good way to add flavor to things without adding all the calories and the additives and all that stuff. So that's just my preference and something that I've learned over time. So the cauliflower is getting there. We just want it to cook through. So I added some water to the cauliflower, the pulsed cauliflower. To let it cook through a little faster. And I think I need to add a little more yet. So, come on over. I highly underestimated that part. But I also would rather add a little at a time rather than overdoing it and making the mush that we don't want to start with. And this process might take a little longer than microwaving for 4 minutes. I don't care, I want to keep the nutrients in it. As I said a little bit ago, I'm not a fan of using the microwave. So I'm just stirring a little bit, get that mixed in. And I'm going to put the top on it. The lid, it does have a formal name. And then I'm going to grab some parchment paper because we're going to form it. So I might as well use my time. This is how I like to work in the kitchen. I like to keep things going. So while things are cooking, that's when I'm grabbing this kind of stuff. Well, maybe. I don't see any wax paper or parchment paper. I see lots of saran wrap. Panic ensues. Not really. Like I said, I adapt as I go. So I'm going to grab the pizza pan. We'll just form it on that because I'm going to throw it in the oven right after anyway, right? So here we go. That's what we'll do. Problem solving. So there's one of the pizza pans. If you've got the stone crust, that might be really good. Just don't have one. One of those things I didn't invest in because for years I couldn't eat pizza. I went gluten-free like about the year, right around 2000. And gluten-free was not a thing yet. So, yeah. Oh, so you had fresh. Oh, it sticks horribly? Okay, good to know. So use parchment paper or it sticks horribly. Got it. Probably all the cheese, huh? That's what makes it happen. So this is cooking. Like I said, it takes a little longer on the stove top than a microwave probably, but I'm not a fan of nuking for just different reasons. So we'll hang on for just a couple minutes. So if you just joined, one of the things that I like to do is to plan out my meals. I just think it makes it easier to set up for success. So a couple of reasons. You can make your grocery list once, go get all the stuff, and you're going to save yourself those trips back and forth to the grocery store. So it saves time in the long run. We save money in the long run. So while you might have sticker shock by your cart full of healthy things, if you plan well, you're probably going to have some of those veggies or some things that carry over into your following week anyway. And I always look at it as, well, I'm either paying it for the grocery bill or I'm paying it at the doctor's office. So you do save money in the long run. I mean, think about how many times you go out to eat and what you spend per time that you go out to eat. You just don't notice it because you're paying it bit by bit by bit by bit. And the truth of the matter is fast food is not cheap anymore. So you're going to pay $10 for one person-ish at a fast food drive-through anyway, right? And it's not fast because it doesn't always save you time. They're not as efficient as once upon a time. So the reality is we've been trained to think it's fast and convenient. You can save that time and money by doing it on your own. And I know that sometimes we don't do it because we don't like to be in the kitchen. That was me once upon a time. Once my health became an issue, it became a priority. And I figured out that I kind of liked it. I liked how I felt. I turn on music and enjoy my time in the kitchen, and it's a chance to be creative, to make art. Like, I choose to look at my food and my meals as a piece of art rather than a necessity. It is a necessity, but when I'm spending that time, I'm going to make it as beautiful as I can and make it look as appealing as possible, because that's part of the fun for me as an artist and a creative type of person. That really kind of changed things, and my little secret, I started watching Rachel Ray, 30-minute meals back in the day. And I learned a lot of tricks in terms of how to make flavors blend and some little tricks in the kitchen to make things easier. That really helped build my confidence and really helped me to think about, well, how can I make things that are going to be healthy for me as opposed to what I was used to, like prepackaged spaghetti and more like semi-homemade meals. How can I make really, truly good quality food and make it quickly? Planning was a part of that. Planning was a big part of that success. So once a week, I encourage you to sit down, go through your recipes, figure out what meals you want. If you have a family, you might hang it up on the refrigerator, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and let each person in your family choose one of the meals for the week. And then use those leftovers for your lunch. It's going to save your waistline. It's going to save your health. Even if it's not the healthiest thing in the world, it's still going to be better for you than getting stuff from a fast food place. And yeah, go out to eat once in a while. It's not going to kill you, but just think through what you would rather have. Okay, I think this might be done. Guess we'll find out. If it doesn't work, like I said, I may be setting myself up for failure on this one. So I do have a meal planning guide, or just a meal planning calendar. So you can say each day of the week and what you're doing for each meal. If you need a copy of that, comment in the comments below here on Facebook, or join me or email me at holly@hollywadewellness.com, and I'll be happy to send you that little tool. Print it off, hang it on your refrigerator, or when you sit down once a week, then you can plot out your meals, plot out your grocery list accordingly. I also like to keep the grocery list on the refrigerator. So as I run out of something, I just add it to the list. And it just makes things easier, and then I can cross over and say, okay, I'm going to need these things for these meals, and if it's already on my list, then I know how much I need, if I need to get more or not. And it's not really that difficult. It's one of those lost skills that people have. So my grandma used to do that all the time. She'd start off with the Sunday dinner, which would be a roasted chicken or a roast or ham. That was kind of the base meal usually potatoes and vegetables and salads and all that stuff, homemade rolls. And then she would base the other meals through the week off of that mainstay. So leftover roast would be turned into something like a stew later down in the week. Or leftover ham could be like ham and eggs. And that's just a strategy that I learned and have gotten back to. It's a lost art, and it's really effective and efficient for helping you to save money, save time, save your waistline, save your health. So initially it feels like a little bit of sticker shock, but in the long run it saves you all those things. All right, and it's really just a matter of becoming comfortable in the kitchen. So I'm going to strain this so you can see I lined a strainer with a tea towel. You could probably use something like cheesecloth, but because the cauliflower is so fine, I don't want it all slipping through. And I just about dumped a bunch of it out on outside of the deal. So I'm going to move it all from this pot into that towel, and I'm going to let it cool a little bit before I try to wring it out. I know what I'll do. I'll use the Of glove. Do any of you have that? So the Of glove, it's one of those things that was like a as seen on TV. Here you go. It is amazing. Because I don't know about you, but like with just regular pot holders, sometimes it's really awkward to grab it, and you're kind of in more danger of spilling it on you than holding it. And the Of glove really does. It's just this glove that's lined, and you can throw it in your washing machine and wash it off. So, but it's lined, and you really can do things. Since this is still boiling water and really hot, I'm going to use this to help me. Oh, use cauliflower in place of mashed potatoes. That's a great tip. Thanks, Nicole. So I'm kind of pushing out the liquid. You can't see me doing that from here. You can see my face, but I'm going to push out the liquid. And what I might do is bring my bowl over here and work here instead. So I'm not carrying a hot thing so far. That's what I'm going to do. So a reminder, here's my bowl because I'm making 2 crusts. I've got enough. So I've got 2/3 Parmesan cheese, 2/3 mozzarella, 2 eggs, some garlic powder, and some Italian. Some of the Italian, that mixed spice, I want to call it Italian blend. That's what it's called. All right, so I'm going to open this up. How much is it strained? Looks good. It's kind of mashed potato-y consistency right now. So we'll see if this works. If I succeed, fantastic. If I fail at this one, well, we'll all learn from the mistakes and we'll just have a good laugh, because that's part of it. It happens in the kitchen all the time, especially when we're trying new recipes or new methods. So I've never made this before. My mom did make cauliflower bread once upon a time. And it was good. It's just not something I'm going to crave or want all the time. All right, success so far. Now let's mix it together. So let me grab a spoon. Taking you all over the kitchen. Actually, just use this right now. So I'm going to mix this by hand, I think. So just a spoon rather than with a mixer. And let it cool down just a bit too before I try to mess with it with my hands. So once again, if you're joining late, this is this recipe for cauliflower crust. It is a head of cauliflower. You could break it in half if you just want to make one crust. I'm going to try to make 2 out of this. So a head of cauliflower, 2 eggs, 2/3 fresh Parmesan cheese shredded, fresh mozzarella cheese shredded, about not quite 3/4 of a teaspoon of Italian blend, the spice. So it's going to have oregano and parsley and basil. And then 1/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now this is maybe where I'm going to make my mistake in this technique because I do not have parchment paper. I thought I did, and I do not. And because I'm doing a live, I don't want to take a time out to go to the grocery store. So the original recipe says to form it on parchment paper. I was warned by a friend of mine just a little bit ago on this live that parchment paper is way better because it sticks really badly to the pan. So maybe I'll put a little cornstarch on the pan too. I'm going to give it a try. Like I said, this is all an experiment right now, and I'm either going to pass or fail. So let me get some cornstarch. Because I don't want to use flour because I don't want to use gluten. Unless you've got some almond flour maybe. So I'm going to oil down these pans. Sorry this isn't quite the Food Network viewing. You're seeing me and not what I'm happening or what's happening on the pans. Someday I will have my own crew. You're a one-person show. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, well, I'll let you know how this goes, Nick. Thanks for your heads up. That's what made me think of it. So I'm going to sprinkle a little cornstarch on the pan to maybe try to keep the crust from sticking. So if you need this recipe again, I will type it up and I will make it on a really pretty, like easy picture so you can save it and use it. I'll let you know how this works because I'm doubling this. I've adapted it a little bit because that's what I do. There may already be a recipe just very like the way that I'm adapting this, but I'll put in all the tricks that I did if it works. So if you catch this on YouTube or on my podcast, when it comes out on my podcast, you can find me at hollywadewellness.com and ask for the recipe. And I will be happy to share that with you, or catch me on Facebook, or sign up for my daily wellness tips, which is a $7 a month membership if you want to do that. And what happens is every day you get a little reminder. So it might have a recipe like, here's your meal planning for today, here's a tip, or it might be just in the middle of the day, hey, how are you doing with your water intake? How are you doing with your hydration? Or rather than reaching for that mid-afternoon piece of candy to keep you going or coffee to keep you going, how about getting up and stretching? So it's those kinds of tips, because what I find is that when it comes to you, rather than you having to go to an app, you're more likely to do it. So if you would like to get the things that I'm doing, sometimes it's a yoga video, sometimes it's my dance song for the day, pump you up. If those things would be helpful for you, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or you can just message me at you can send me an email at holly@hollywadewellness.com, and I would be happy to connect with you. So we'll see. I'm planning on this making 2, but it might just make 1 crust. Nothing like winging it when I've never tried it, but I thought, hey, you know what? Why not just do what I do, showcase my life, raw and real. experiments and all. Not always tried and true, and sometimes tried and true, because that's just the way life is. So I'm making this crust probably about 1/4 of an inch thick. And my plan is to freeze it and use it later, use it next weekend. Because I didn't want the cauliflower to go bad. The plan was to make it yesterday, and just things happened, because that's life. Ultimately, what happened is my boyfriend and I were watching the spring game, and we went to a sports bar and ate down there, and my gut just wasn't happy the rest of the day. So we were going to do this for dinner, and neither one of us felt great. So there you have it. There's, like I said, raw and real. There's the truth. Well, that's pretty. So let's see how it works. I may have 1.5 anyway. Let's see. So I'm pouring the rest of this mix into the second pan. I'm going to try it this way. The original recipe says to place it on parchment paper, but I didn't have any. I didn't have wax paper either. So, out of a suggestion saying it sticks really badly if you don't put it on parchment paper, I sprayed my pans and then sprinkled a little bit of cornstarch to maybe keep it from sticking. Guess we'll find out. It smells really good, I gotta say that. So I'm excited to see how this works, and I will report back. Do you have permission to try a little bit? Probably shouldn't, because there's raw egg. Never stops people from cookie dough, right? So I'll try just a little bit. We'll see. Just tastes like cheesy cauliflower. All right. So here's how it'll wrap up. I'm not going to make you hang around for a half hour while this is cooking. I may pop on for another live just to give you the update and the report. We'll see. So the oven, so I'll run through the whole recipe with you. A head of cauliflower. It says 2 cups processed. I ended up with way more than that, so I'm doubling up the recipe. And I'm trying to make 2 crusts. So a teaspoon of what do I want to call it? Italian seasoning. I keep upping it, but I'm realizing I doubled the recipe. You're going to want a ½ teaspoon of garlic powder to double it. 2/3 cup Parmesan cheese, 2/3 cup mozzarella, 2 eggs. Preheat your oven to 450. Then in your food processor, you're going to process the cauliflower. Wash it, take off that stem, and then pulse it. So you don't end up with a paste. You end up with kind of grain-like granules. Then put that in a pot with about a cup of water, ½ cup of water, somewhere in there. It's just going to depend on the day, you know, that's just kind of how it is. Put that in a pot, cook the cauliflower to soften it. Keep stirring so it all gets mixed in there. While that's going, mix your other ingredients in the bowl. So that's when you're going to mix your eggs, your spices, and your cheese in a bowl. Let that cauliflower keep cooking. Once it's tender, strain it. I strained it in a strainer lined with a towel, with a tea towel. You could probably use cheesecloth because you want that liquid to drain out of it. Squeeze it out, get that liquid pushed out so that the cauliflower is dry again. Now you have cooked cauliflower. Add that to your bowl, mix it all together really good. And then we're going to see. So you can either, on parchment paper, make your crusts and then cook it on your pan that way. Or I made it right in the pan. So that's what number one looks like. Filled a whole one. This one's going to be a little smaller. It is a bigger pan. So I do have two. They're about 1/4 of an inch thick, maybe 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch. Mashed down, ready to go. I sprayed that down with cooking oil and then also sprinkled some cornstarch on it to keep it from sticking. So the next step is this will go in the oven for 15 minutes. Once it comes out, I'm going to flip it over and then cook it again on the other side. Probably not as long. I'll check it in about 5. It might take a little longer, it might not, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. Obviously, I'm going to have to do that twice with 2 crusts. And then I'm going to let it cool and stick it in the freezer to use for next weekend. So we'll see how this works from here on out. I will keep you posted. Again, if you would like the recipe written out, I will create that once I know how this works. So just comment below and let me know that you'd like the recipe. Just comment recipe. I'll make sure that you get it with the tweaks, with what worked or what didn't. If you want my wellness tips, just comment tips. And if you would like my calendar for meal planning, just comment calendar. If you don't have me on Facebook, because this is going on to my podcast, you can join me on Facebook. You can find me at Holly Wade Wellness and join me there. Or email me at holly@hollywadewellness.com and I'll be happy to send you any of those 3 things or more than that, whichever things you want. But those are the places where you can find me. This video is also going to go up on YouTube in a little bit, so if you need to go back and watch the process, you can do that. I'm all about becoming the warrior for your health and your life because you're the only one who can find the courage and the strength to stand up for it. I can give you the tips and the tools on how to do it, how to reduce stress, how to communicate, how to set boundaries, how to succeed in your health, and to create that vibrant health that you deserve and you desire. I can't do it for you, but I can walk with you along the way. And if you'd like to become a lifetime warrior, you're in the group. You can join my Facebook group. So I will put that link in the comments below. Have an awesome rest of your weekend, and I will keep you posted on how this baby goes. Thanks for hopping on, Julie and Nicole and Jana and Jordan and whoever else happens to catch this later. Have an awesome rest of your weekend, and here's to your health.